Take us inside the room. How optimistic are you that we may get a deal this weekend?
I feel very confident that we will work out a deal. I've seen the offers and the counter offers, and I think we're getting close. As you know, what we don't want the Trump wall, but we do want to see personnel, technology, and secure the border. I'm really the only member in the conference committee from the border, so I spend a lot of time with people down there, the CBP officers, the Border Patrol, the other folks. And keep in mind, if you want to stop drugs, look at the ports of entry, technology, K-9s, personnel. If you want to stop people that are here illegally, 1/3 of them will come through the southern border. I think there were 303,000 last year. And then the other 67% are visa overstays. And most of those visa overstays, by coincidence, are Canadians.
So, Congressman, help us understand, what was the breakthrough here? Because I have to say, I think a lot of us, reading the headlines, hearing from folks like you, may be pleasantly surprised that a deal is getting done. What broke the logjam?
Well, I think both sides don't want to see a shutdown. I mean, last time the 35 days of a shutdown was really uncalled for. I know the president said, I'll be proud to shut down the government, but it was not good to the employees. It was not good to negotiations. I've always said, the bad guys don't shut our government, but the president of Congress has a way of shutting down the government. We can't do that because that has a negative impact on our economy.
Well, Congressman, you were there earlier this week, the State of the Union, the president addressing the nation and the Congress. He seemed pretty clear about what he wanted. He wants a wall. So how likely is it that you're going to deliver something to the president and he's going to say, listen, I've been very clear about this. I want a wall. If there's not exactly what I want, I'm not signing this.
Well, again, I can't speak for the president, but I can speak about the members of the conference committee. We're all appropriators, both the House and the Senate, finance. We all get together. We work out deals. We're deal makers by nature. So I think we can work this out, and I feel confident. I mean, I think you're hearing, like my friend Steve said, he felt confident. I feel confident. I think we're getting closer to where we need to get to come up with border security. Because, again, if the president thinks that the only way you secure the border by putting $5.7 billion on a 14th century solution called the wall, then that's a false premise. The wall is not the only way to look at how we secure the border.
And how much of this, Congressman, is essentially a debate about semantics? A wall versus some sort of border versus slats versus fencing. Is that where some of the give is? Help us understand what's happening around that table.
Well, I mean, again, keep in mind, we got 654 miles of fencing right now. Half of those miles, 300 miles or so, are vehicle barriers. Those Normandy crosses to stop vehicles. They don't stop people. They stop vehicles. So half of all the fencing we have are vehicle barriers. So there's ways of looking at, where do we make some changes on something that's there already? Where do we put some replacement fencing on a fence that's been there already? So it's a matter of amount of dollars on vehicle, or should I say on enhancement barriers. But again, we're not anywhere close to the $5.7 billion that the president wants.
And what's going to be the reaction among you and your colleagues if the president looks at this deal and says, all right, well, I'm just going to make an emergency declaration. I'm going to build the wall that I want?
Well, I mean, I think the president has been looking at the emergency declaration as a release valve if he doesn't get what he can from Congress, which, again, he's not going to get $5.7 billion for a wall. He's not. So maybe that's his exit strategy to use that. I mean, he can do it, but I think any reasonable judge will look at this. If you have an emergency, let's say you have a fire department is going to look at that fire and say, we have an emergency, let's go, let's address it right now. The president for months has been saying, hey, there's a crisis, I might declare an emergency, and the longer he takes, then I think any reasonable person says, well, if it really was an emergency in your mind, you should have called it months and months ago and not use that as leverage because you're not getting what you want.